Okay, so we'll start off with a little bit of backstory for the Icy Onslaught event. This event ran from December 15th to January 4th and was introduced during the version 179 update, the 5th Job, at the tail end of 2016. While this event was only shortly available for a period of 3 weeks, the content included a sort of cutscene, a few story-related quests, some dailies, and a debate system. Like a lot of temporary content, for some reason, there was a lot of art ordered for this event, including character dialogue art, group art, and strangely recolored sprites. I'll elaborate more on this towards the end, but moving on to the story of this event, Icy Onslaught begins with Nineheart sending you a message, requesting that you attend an urgent meeting at the Heir of Council Hall. The Alliance is already in talks, but when you arrive, you discuss the recent monster sightings and sudden change in temperature across the world. Nineheart seems pretty pleased that you've already encountered them, informing you that they call themselves the Frost Fiends, and a full-scale invasion has already begun. These Frost Fiends carry the chill of winter with them everywhere they go. Nineheart tells you the results of this meeting have determined that you will be the one leading the charge to stop their siege of Mapleworld. The situation is already more dire than they thought. Aside from a handful of locales, most of Mapleworld has been experiencing a long period of very warm and temperate weather. As a result, the people and wildlife of the world are not prepared for such an onslaught of cold. No matter where the Frost Fiends go, a blizzard falls in their wake. Even the sweltering desert city of Ariant isn't immune to their assault. As you agree to lead the charge, Empress Cygnus says that she knew that you would aid them. Claudine offers the full might and support of the resistance in the fight against the Frost Fiends, and Nineheart quickly moves on to discussing the tactics. He mentions that these Frost Fiends have been spotted in 7 separate regions of Mapleworld. Their army is classified into 2 groups, those seeking to control and dominate by occupying fields, and those besieging towns directly. Field invasion forces have been identified in 6 territories: Victoria Island, Ludus Lake, the Elnath Mountains, Nihal Desert, Leafray, and Mulong. The key to victory lies in defeating all of the fiends invading each territory before the invasion wave ends, and you'll be participating directly in the invasion defense. When you've defeated at least 10 Frost Fiends, Nineheart says that you'll be rewarded, though it'll probably vary with the outcome of the invasion. On defending towns, the obvious goal is to eliminate the invaders. Barrier generators have been erected in every targeted city for protection. This prevents the individuals from entering, but if a swarm stages an assault, the generator will fail. You'll need to defend towns in this case until the generator can reboot. Since this is not a simple battle, but a war, you need to make sure that you stay in fighting shape, so you're forbidden from participating in more than one town's defense per invasion wave. Nineheart's intelligence reports indicate that the Frost Fiends have enough resources for about 30 assaults before they have to scurry back to their frozen wasteland for provisions. Edelstein's resistance can hold the line, and the foe can be defeated by way of attrition. Nineheart mentions that the Alliance is counting on adventurers and heroes throughout the world to fend off these sieges. And as Nineheart finishes up, Claudine mentions that there's more to cover. Nineheart would have had you going off to battle with only half of the picture. It's important that you know that the Resistance will be providing communications technology support to help coordinate the defense against the Frost Fiends invasion. You'll be able to keep track of the situation on the battlefield in real time. Of course, there's a little bit of bickering, and so Nineheart argues that the technology behind it would be meaningless without the advanced tactical information provided by the Cygnus Knights. Claudine questions how they'd be able to coordinate a defense on this scale without their aid, mocking various mundane tactics like smoke signals or carrier pigeon. Anyway, you'll be able to use an invasion map to locate attacking Frost Fiend forces. You can also use it to track your battlefield achievements and rewards. Claudine then shows you how to use its interface and gives you some additional information. They've discovered that the Frost Fiends typically begin their invasions around noon and continue about 11 hours each day, every hour on the dot, with additional summons on the 10th and 20th minute of every hour. The weather indicators are updated regularly by Cygnus scouts in the area. A cloud icon appears for about 10 minutes before an attack, and snow clouds represent invasions in progress. A gray snow cloud represents a failed defense, and a sun appears when you've defeated all the fiends within a region. Obviously, she suggests that you check the invasion map regularly. Empress Cygnus then mentions that it's about time for a recess from the discussion. However, Nineheart and Claudine both have much more to say to you. Claudine mentions that there's a pretty big problem. The Resistance worked in secret to develop a barrier generator to protect Edelstein from invasion. However, some of the Frost Fiends have wisened up to their tactics. They're stealing the fuel that's used for the barrier generators. And on top of that, it takes 10 heroes to turn on the generator every time. She requests your help protecting Edelstein and looking out for it. And Nineheart has an additional request. Since there's clearly no way that the Frost Fiends just decided to engage Maple World in a full-scale assault in one random day, the invasion was definitely planned out ahead of time. And this is something that the Alliance is missing. Nineheart wants to figure it out. According to scouts, not all of the Frost Fiends leave their encampments during their attacks. Some of them stay behind, as if they're protecting something. He suggests that you investigate, as whatever they're hiding could be the key to their defeat. Now, this questline actually carries on quite a bit. However, I've ran into sort of a major problem that plagues me nearly every time I look into event-related content. Despite the vast majority of data that is held in the client files, Blockbuster's party quests and more relevant event quest dialogue is typically held server-sided. Most events, and Icy Onslaught itself, aren't very well documented throughout the internet. The majority of the information I've been able to present regarding this particular event literally comes from a single old YouTube video of somebody showcasing just the initial intro quest for Icy Onslaught. But despite this setback, there are text entries summarizing the quests from the quest available / in progress / completed data. Now, I'm pretty sure there's a lot of detail lost, but I can't read the actual dialogue, so this is more just my interpretation of events from those quest completed summaries. With Nineheart tasking you to investigate the Frost Fiends that make up the bulk of their army, you collect strange snow crystal items as you continue to defeat these monsters. Returning to Nineheart, he notices these snow crystals are quite different than ice typically found in Maple World, and an in-depth analysis is required, and he sends you to Dr. Betty in Alinea. In the interim, while analyzing the strange snow crystals, she's heard that the snow rabbit leaf items do an amazing job of amplifying sound vibrations, and she has another purpose in mind for them, which she has you gather. Betty ends up running out of necessary research material and tasks you with traveling to El Nath to speak with Jade to retrieve an unmeltable ice shard sample from the region. Whilst Jade is out searching for the shard, the earth begins to quake and a terrible cry is heard. The constant disruptions are driving the townspeople crazy, and so you put a stop to its source, which is a strange monster throwing a tantrum. When you return to Jade, you bring back proof of its defeat, which I guess you stole its pants? Anyway, she gives you the shard to take back to Betty. Now, according to Betty, the Snow Rabbit, Snowball, Snowfoot, and Scalding Snow monsters were originally these strange snow crystals, but they were transformed by a magical pathogen. At her request, she has you deliver the refined snow crystal sample to Nineheart for further analysis. While speaking with Nineheart, your conversation is interrupted by a Cygnus Night Soldier, who tells you that the Frost Fiends are gathering for a large-scale assault on Edelstein. Nineheart asks you to warn Ferdy and Edelstein of this impending attack. However, Ferdy doesn't seem particularly worried. The Resistance has some kind of barrier generator to keep the Frost Fiends out, although the device is still a prototype and needs to be activated manually. Since you're already in Edelstein, Ferdy asks you to power it up. There should be a manual on the generator itself. With the barrier generator now operational, there should be no further issues in Edelstein, so you return to Nineheart, who in turn informs you of a new problem. The Cygnus Night Soldier that took the refined snow crystal sample was an imposter. Fortunately, the item has a resistance-made tracker attached to it, which leads somewhere near the center of the town of Orbis. As you search for the sample, you end up confronting a strange fiery being, Fogo Vermelho, confirming that it's in his possession. The creature tells you he did not take it himself, that it was left there by his son's friends. He'll return the sample in exchange for a favor. Fogo Vermelho tells you that he comes from another world, one that is beautiful and covered in snow, but a bizarre blizzard drove the people mad and into the arms of the Frost Fiends. His son is among them, and Fogo Vermelho asks you to find him. You agree to help him, but only after your business with Nineheart is concluded. At this point, there is a specific daily quest that opens up revolving around capturing Fogo Azul. His father tells you that the son can create mirror images, so nabbing him might take multiple attempts. He gives you a bottle to capture Fogo Azul's blue flame. However, each time you return to Fogo Vermelho, it turns out to not be his son, and you end up repeating the process every day. Returning to Nineheart, though, he thanks you for recovering the refined snow crystal sample, and you tell him what was learned from Fogo Vermelho. The invading Frost Fiends are from another world. Nineheart has absolutely no trouble believing this, as contrary to most lifeforms in Maple World, the Frost Fiends are at home in the cold, and even seem to carry it with them. In the meantime, the Alliance will send the sample to Grendel for further further magical analysis. Now, while I'm unsure of the sequence of events here, I believe a certain daily quest is interjected here, which provides context for the continuation of the questline. Chief Totemo has reached out to the Alliance for help, and Nineheart sends you to speak with him. The people of Leafray have grown ill due to the disease that's carried by the Frost Fiends. An effective treatment has been discovered, but help is needed to gather it, and he asks you to collect an Ice Nepenthe sprout. To kind of break the narrative here, you would defeat a mob spawn from an invasion map, Jack, to obtain Jack's carrot. You'd plant it in a non-town area away from portals, and it would spawn an Ice Nepenthe monster. After killing that, you would receive an Ice Nepenthe seed, hold on to it for 30 minutes, and then you would have grown the sprout. But anyway, back to the quests. As Grendel studies the sample, Nineheart asks you to go speak with Byron in Ariant. Byron tells you an unusual story about a Frost Fiend called Jack. Unfortunately, the dialogue isn't present, so I don't know what the actual story is, but Byron has apparently been conducting experiments which have revealed that planting the carrot nose on this Frost Fiend Jack yields Ice Nepenthe sprouts, which can be used as medicine. To confirm its efficacy, you are asked to take it to Mr. Doe in Mulang. Mr. Doe tells you that this ingredient is indeed effective against the flu, and it should prove particularly helpful as the presence of the Frost Fiends appear to be making people ill. He prepares the friendly flu medicine and asks you to take it to Chief Totemo in Leafray. The chief takes it and he seems better almost immediately. But there is something else that he wants to talk to you about now. It seems that there is a new Frost Fiend, White Dragon, that has been plaguing Leafray, and he's quite upset about it. While a passing hero has managed to drive White Dragon out of Leafray, the monster is still scheming to take over. He pleads with you to defeat it and take whatever unusual object that it carries to Nineheart. After somehow defeating White Dragon, you bring the shimmering dragon diamond to Nineheart, who conveniently tells you that Grendel's analysis of the refined snow crystal sample is complete. The Frost Fiends are using the crystals as a power source for a massive summoning spell. You volunteer to help put a stop to the Frost Fiends, starting by speaking with Kidan outside of their camp. Kidan tells you that Snow, which is wrong, it's not actually his name, but that's what's in the dialogue. Snow, king of the Frost Fiends, has arrived in Maple World. And then he goes on to say, the Alliance has located the lair of Inverno, the king of the Frost Fiends. The Cygnus Knights tried to take him out, but they've failed. Kidan was worried, but you tell him that you'll take on Snow yourself. He tells you that it's inspiring to have such a brave warrior like you on the Alliance's side. And you make your way to the Frost Fiends camp and challenge their king. Although you successfully defeat Inverno, he is some kind of immortal ice zombie, and it might not be the last time that you see him. Kidan is worried that the fiend may return. Nineheart is grateful for your help, of course, but warns you that the Frost Fiends are not yet defeated. After some time, Nineheart contacts you again. He mentions that the longer this war goes on, the greater the toll on both sides, and he's come up with an idea for putting an end to this conflict: diplomacy. As it stands right now, the Alliance doesn't know what they want or why they're here. They attacked, and so the Alliance has responded in kind. But perhaps there's a solution to end the bloodshed. Their language has not been comprehensible until now. After a great deal of research and collaboration, the Alliance, but notably the Resistance, have developed a device. It might look like a mask, but inside is cutting-edge technology that should be able to translate everything you say and hear in real time to understand the strange language spoken by the Frost King and his minions. With this translator, you should be able to safely interact with the Frost Fiends, and perhaps find some common ground. If you're willing to help, Nineheart wants you to be an ambassador of sorts for Maple World, and he's already arranged the transport. Now, this is where the diplomatic debate system comes in. Essentially, it's just choosing whatever dialogue option that convinces each fiend that allows you to move on to the next stage, of which there were 5. I don't actually know how this went, aside from the single video, but I assume it was actually RNG for which order of Frost Fiends would block your path. With Inverno always being the 5th stage, that leaves the rest for you to convincingly find a way past. Though I believe if you actually did well, you could skip stages? You'd follow through debates with the Ice Pepe siblings, Krampus, Fogo Azul, the Mistress of Ice, and finally Inverno. Upon reaching Inverno, you would greet him and quickly get on with the diplomacy. You mentioned Maple World's been a chaotic place lately with the blizzards and Frost Fiends invading. The war hasn't been great for either side, and you were hoping to find a solution. Intrigued, he says that you have his intention. With this, you basically get into a debate with him, and both you and Inverno have something called a debate score, and depending on your responses, you would either raise or lower each other's score. Whoever reaches a debate score of 100 first would win. The debate is just a back and forth question and answer regarding winter themes in general. Ice, winds, cold, snow, and such. After a while of debating, he just asks you to please stop. You make a good argument, but he's not convinced. Although, his resolve for conquering Maple World seems to be wavering. You return to Nineheart, who tells you that you've proven yourself a capable diplomat, and he's certain if you keep communicating, you can put an end to this war, suggesting that you return tomorrow to continue negotiations. And that's about it for the story of Icy Onslaught. I assume, since this event ended without any major invasion of the Frost Fiends, and Inverno didn't install himself as king, and the entire world did not freeze over, that you succeeded in your diplomatic endeavors with the King of Winter. The rewards from this event were actually pretty interesting. There were about 11 different available titles, which were earned by completing different achievements during the event. Master of Icy Onslaught, Icy Onslaught Boss Breaker, Icy Onslaught Survivor, Icy Onslaught Emblem Enthusiast, Krampus's Little Helper, The Secret of the Cold, Special Snowflake, Winter Fashionista, Cool Under Pressure, Carrot Farmer Extraordinaire, and Winter Warrior. There was also a Frost Fiends equipment set that was included, which was a shoulder accessory, badge, belt, pendant, and the mask. Additionally, there was the Icy Onslaught medal, which was given to those who served on the front lines of the war with the Frost Fiends. And last but not least, there was a super obnoxious toggle effect, which was this massive trophy above your head that showcased your achievements during the event. For some additional lore, Fogo Vermelho and Fogo Azul are Portuguese for red fire and blue fire respectively. It's also safe to say that since those names were in Portuguese, that Inverno is as well, which translates to simply winter. Krampus is pretty obviously a reference to the Central European folklore monster figure who punishes naughty children around the Christmas season. And Jack, I assume is referencing Jack Frost, but it's likely a mix of both, like the folktale Jack Frost, which is more of a personification of winter, and the Jack Frost movie. Though I have no idea if they mean like the spooky horror one from 97 or the kind of tragic Christmas movie from 98 with Michael Keaton. But in MapleStory though, the monster does not look very threatening. Remos, I'm assuming, is just an undead yeti. One of the animations for it though is kind of funny because it eats a piece of meat and then because it has no stomach, it just kind of falls to the ground. And Black Annis is another reference to some English folklore. Usually she's depicted as a classic hag or witch with a taste for human flesh, but particularly children. Finally, I've got no idea what Inverno himself is a reference of. Personally, it kind of reminds me of the White Walkers. It also kind of reminds me of like Arthas Menethil on his undead horse. The Mistress of Ice, I also have no clue if it's an actual reference to anything or not. I couldn't find anything on it, but there is some really strange hidden lore on her in-game that's buried behind an item description. I assume you can fight her during one of the invasions and get this item, but the description reads, "Once upon a time, a 50-million-year-old icicle was granted life and became the Mistress of Ice. It's said the icicle formed slowly, growing 0.001 millimeters every year. Someone has been writing bits of her legend down on paper and spreading it around. Something amazing will occur when you gather all the papers and speak the 3-digit password. There's a number written on the icicle, but you cannot make it out." Now, unfortunately, I think that this was probably intended to actually be implemented, but likely wasn't finished in time. There are 3 other Mistress's Icicle items in the data files, though they're blank and unused. There also weren't any paper or book items added during this event. Considering that there was supposedly a 3-digit password and 3 other icicles in the files, it makes me think that this was probably left unfinished. Anyway, overall, I personally think the dialogue and the quests for this event were amazing. I love the story of the Frost Fiends, which has an explanation. The Frost Fiends utilize strange magic, creating their army with maddening blizzards that drive people to join them, and transforming snow crystals into monsters with a pathogen, slowly infecting the people of Leafray with illness even. And the story utilizes the Alliance, with the Resistance and the Six Knights specifically coming together and being included in the war effort to fight back these invaders, of which you learn through the questline came from another world, one that is beautiful and covered in snow, and they're intending to do the same with Maple World. And personally, I really love the inclusion of existing capable NPCs instead of creating brand new ones for the event. Utilizing Dr. Betty, Grendel, and even Mr. Doe, particularly the lesser known NPCs like Byron, and most of all Furry, who is so criminally underutilized as the founder of the Resistance. As much as I hate daily story, I really like the explanation for event dailies as well. Fogo Azul can make mirror images of himself, so you'll never be sure if you actually captured him. And the diplomacy missions are only very slowly persuading Inverno, who is also an immortal undead creature, so even if you defeat him in a direct fight, you aren't finished defeating him. And also, the people of Leafray are getting sick, so you have to make medicine over time for them. Despite all of this though, I am not a fan of the debate system. I think it's really out of place, at least in regards to the monsters that aren't Inverno. The art also seems super all over the place, with some actually having art and others not. Some monsters being just simple recolors, and some monsters are actually brand new for this event. Inverno is the biggest offender though. It clashes so hard, like the art style is so weird. It's like there was quite a bit of effort put into like Krampus and the Mistress of Ice, but everything else has such a weird variety and quality. But I think that's the only downside. Personally, I would have liked for this to have become permanent content. I think events and time-limited stuff really wastes a lot of potential, especially in regards to like story. Like this is something that the Alliance comes together to overcome, you know? It gives more purpose to them. It seems like a huge waste of assets and effort to implement content in game and it only be available for 3 weeks and then literally never ever seen ever again. It just sucks. Like people can't experience the content. So if you're learning the story about the Alliance now, you would never hear about this. You'd never know about it. If you want to subscribe and click the little bell icon, you can get a notification for when I actually do get around to making another video. Also, if you enjoy any of the lore, share the videos with your friends or something, because it would actually help a lot. But anyway, if there's anything important that I'm missing, let me know.